What's up guys, it's Jessie Hilgenberg, and today's video is going to be pretty rad because I am going to go over my top 8 glute exercises to build shape, size, and strength to your glutes. Now, the glutes are made up of 3 muscles, the gluteus maximus, the gluteus minimus, and the gluteus medius, and these top 8 exercises are going to cover all of it. So if you're ready, let's jump right into the first exercise. Let's go. Okay, exercise number 1, the queen of booty building. We're gonna do a banded hip thrust. Now, you don't have to do this with a band. So if you don't have a band or you don't wanna do it with a band, just don't do this part. But I'm gonna show you guys how to do this with a band in case you do have one and you want a little bit extra glute activation. So with your hip circle or glute band, you're gonna put it above the knees. Okay, and then you want to find a bench. I'm gonna show you how to do this with a barbell and with a dumbbell. Okay, so get yourself all set up and you're gonna move the barbell out of the way and make sure your shoulder blades are right up against the bench. Make sure your band is in place. And from here, roll the barbell up to you. Make sure nothing's in the way. And the first thing you need to do is make sure everything is symmetrical. So make sure you guys have a bar pad on here to protect your pelvis and your hip bones. And just use the markings on the barbell to make sure that the hip pad is symmetrical, because once you put that on, you can't see those markings anymore, and I want to make sure you guys aren't off-centered like that. You're going to know right away when you lift up the bar. Make sure the bar pad is symmetrical. Roll it up. And then second part of that is making sure you are right in the center of the barbell. So once you have all of that, you're going to bend your feet like this. Get your elbows up onto the bench and lift up. You want to get yourself up on the bench enough to where your mid scapula or your lower shoulder blades are on the bench, okay? And from here, make sure you tuck your chin down quite a bit. Now, where your feet should be, think about your shins being vertical. So don't have your feet out too much like this, because my shins are not vertical. They are not perpendicular with the floor, and not too far back with your heels, because then you're gonna have too much of a bend in your knee. So your shins should be vertical, okay? If it's comfortable for you, you can point your toes out just a little bit so that you get some glute activation, okay? And you're gonna tip your pelvis up at the top like this, okay? So it should be like you're just tipping your pelvis up. So this is neutral for me, and I want you to just squeeze the glutes up and tip the pelvis, okay? And now you're gonna keep your chin down. I know this is a lot of steps, but it's really simple. It makes it so that you guys don't do these incorrectly, okay? Keep your chin down and keep your gaze straight ahead. And go down. Don't let your butt touch the floor. And now just scoop your pelvis up again, okay? So I don't want your hip thrusters to be this big rocking movement with your torso. That's what I'm trying to teach you guys right now, is to keep your torso nice and short and compact. Chin down, gaze forward. Bring your butt towards the floor. Keep your chin here, your gaze forward, and scoop the pelvis up. That's the motion, okay? I'll show you with a dumbbell now. When I do hip thrusts with a dumbbell, I just use one. So get yourself up on the bench the same way, okay? And then you take the dumbbell and just put one on each hip, okay? So I've got this side on my left, this side on my right. That way you only have one dumbbell to hold on to, and you can kind of move it a little bit out of the way and control the dumbbell while you dip down and thrust up, okay? Everything else still applies. Tuck the chin into the chest, gaze is forward, keep the torso nice and compact. Don't let your ribs flare up like this, okay? Down, scoop the pelvis up. Down, scoop the pelvis up. Of course, you can do these without any weight at all, just the band. In fact, I'll do a few for you right now because you'll really be able to see what's going on with my torso. So chin down, gaze forward, scoop the pelvis up. The wrong way to do this is like this. Even with your chin tuck, this is still wrong because your ribs are flared and your torso is long. So keep the torso nice and compact, and all of the hinging and all of the movement is coming from the hips without any rocking up here. All right, let's do it. Okay, exercise number 2 is the banded goblet squat. Now, these don't have to be banded, but I love doing them with a band and recommend doing them with a band because a huge part of this exercise is forcing the knees out so that you get that external rotation, which activates the glutes. And having a band on just makes that so much easier. So go ahead and put the band on, okay? For this one, I put the band below my knees. You guys do what works best for you. You can have the band above your knees or below your knees. Everybody is different and everybody feels their glutes activated differently depending on the band. So go ahead and try it below your knees, but if you're not feeling it, you don't feel a ton of activation, you're not pushing your knees against the band enough, try it above the knees and see if you like that better. It really just depends on you. Okay, so we don't need a big wide stance for this. The stance is actually fairly narrow. I'm gonna say shoulder width is what I'm doing here. Everybody's shoulder width is a little bit different, so find a nice neutral stance with your toes pointed out just a little bit, okay? And then the goblet part of this exercise is just holding a dumbbell or a kettlebell right here, goblet style. Okay, so what you're gonna do from here, squeeze the glutes, activate your core, engage your lats, okay? So I don't want everything loosey-goosey and you leaning over like this. Make sure your lats are nice and tucked back. Squeeze the glutes, engage the core, bend at the knees, and go down. Now from at the bottom, what I want you to experience is your knees pushing out against the band and your elbows going inside the knees. It doesn't need to be all the way through. I just want you to imagine that. If you have a mirror, if you can glance down, make sure that's happening. Okay, the main thing here is to push the knees out the entire time. One cue I like is to feel my elbows just barely touch the inside of my knees so I know I'm right where I want to be. Okay, get after it. Okay, exercise number 3 is the Romanian deadlift. These are called RDLs, and I'm gonna show you using 2 dumbbells and a band. Again, band is totally optional. I love using it though because it really forces that external rotation, activating the glutes even more during the exercise. For this one, I put the band above my knees. Again, do what's best for you. Grab the dumbbells. Okay, palms face inward, palms face the thighs. Make sure your shoulders are down and back. I like to envision shoving my shoulder blades into my back pocket, so if that visual helps you too. Toes are pointed straight ahead and your stance should be between hip and shoulder width, okay? Now once you're ready to move, all you're gonna do here is break at the hips. This is not a torso down movement. This is a hip hinge or a hip slide, which is sometimes easier to visualize, okay? So breaking at the hips, meaning your butt goes back and you start that hinge motion, and the only reason your torso starts heading down is because your hips are moving back, back, back. All while you are pushing the band out with your knees and keeping your hands nice and close to your body. Make sure you keep those shoulder blades down and back the entire time. Keep the neck neutral, and when your hamstrings are stretched to the max at the bottom, that's when you're going to squeeze the glutes and just slide the glutes and the hips all the way back to the starting position, okay? So do not get in a situation where you're just going down and up, down and up. I want you to think about this as a hip-centered activity, a hip-centered motion, okay? You're gonna break at the hips and slide the hips back while your shins stay vertical And you stay nice, close, and compact, and then squeeze the glutes when your hamstrings are fully stretched, and slide the hips back to the starting position. All right, let's go. Okay, the fourth exercise today is the Bulgarian split squat. Now take notes because I'm gonna teach you how to get the absolute most glute activity out of doing these than ever before. So normally you have a pretty narrow stance, and once you get your balance, you usually just go straight down and straight up. So the knee just points straight towards the floor and you come back up. Now that is perfectly wonderful. You're gonna get a lot of leg activity out of that. But what's wrong with this one is it is primarily quad and knee dominant, okay? Now to make it more hip and glute dominant, you're gonna widen the stance quite a bit, okay? Let me show you guys why I have this awkward PVC pipe laying around. Okay, for one, this isn't the main use for it, but for one, it's gonna be great for you guys to use for balance, okay? But the real reason I have this for you today is I wanna show you the angle of your body all the way down to your knee that you need to take in order to get that super, super duper glute activation that I'm trying to get you guys to have during this exercise. So what I like to do is I put it behind me like this, and you guys don't ever have to do this, but I wanna show you that perfectly straight line from the head to the back of the knee. It's about, I don't know, 30%, okay? So we've got like a 30% angle here. And now, if I just have my torso at that angle and I bring my knee straight down, we're not gonna activate the glutes as much. But showing you guys with this PVC pipe shows you that I have a perfect 30-degree angle from the back of my head to the back of my knee all the way through the exercise. So what I've changed here is instead of my knee going straight down toward the floor, my knee is staying in line with my torso and it's going back a little bit farther. Okay, so instead of pointing straight down, it's pointing at the same angle that my torso is. Okay, and doing that will allow you to get more glute activation out of this. So imagine your knee going down behind you farther and the back of your head all the way down, the back of your leg all the way down to the back of the knee has a perfect straight line, and you keep that during the whole entire exercise to get the most glute and hip activation out of your split squats. Let's go. Exercise number 5 are step-ups. I love step-ups. I've been doing them forever. It's an amazing glute exercise, okay? There's 2 ways that I like to do this. High step-ups is usually where I have the box or the bench about low thigh level, forcing you to really dig deep into your glutes and step up. But we're just gonna do regular step-ups today so that I can teach you some really great tips on how to get the most glute activity that you can out of these, okay? What I see done wrong all of the time, the back foot is way far back like this, and you guys are using momentum to come up like this. So you're really, watch this whole motion, you really like scoop yourself up and use all that momentum to get to the step up, okay? So I'm gonna change everything in that right now. We're gonna keep our back foot as close as we can to the bench or the box, okay? Now, from our Bulgarian split squat talk, remember that 30-degree lean? I want you guys to take that, okay? Your torso can be straight up and down, but it's gonna be more quad dominant. So we're gonna do the 30% lean, okay? We're gonna dig our heel into the bench or the box, okay? And we're not gonna use any momentum. Our back foot is gonna stay as close to the edge of the box as possible, and you're gonna use all of this glute strength to stand up, okay? And then you're gonna go down the exact way that you came up, meaning you're not just flopping down out of this, you're gonna go down very slowly, keeping that back foot as close to the bench or the box as possible, okay? And don't forget that 30-degree lean of the torso. So it'll look something like this, and before I get after it, I want you guys to remember to keep this knee out. So I don't want your knee to cave in as you step up. I want you to constantly be pushing that knee out this way as you do the step up, okay? Let's go. Okay, number 6 is the banded, feet elevated glute bridge. No list would be complete without a glute bridge, but I'm gonna show you how I personally have gotten a little bit more glute activation out of a glute bridge. So you can do these without the feet elevated at all. And if you feel your glutes while you do that, then rock on. What's the most important to keep in mind with all glute activity and all glute movements is that you put the band, you put the elevation up, you do what works best for you in terms of what you feel the most in your glutes. So for me, during a glute bridge, I like to use a band, again, to force my knees out. And instead of having the band above my knees, like I do in most band movements, I have my band below my knees in the glute bridge. And I only know that because I've been doing glute bridges for a really long time. And I know that I personally get more glute activation when the band is below my knees. So for a glute bridge, your shoulders are flat on the ground, okay? And your feet are up elevated on a steady surface like this that won't slide, okay? Your feet are gonna be about hip width apart. And remember, you wanna push against the band the entire time. Press your palms and your arms into the floor for support. Tuck your chin and tuck your pelvis up like this, okay? So it's not just up, okay? You want the whole hinge to happen at the hip. So you tuck and scoop your hips up and then lightly bring your hips back down. I barely touch the ground with my hips. Scoop up and back down. Now remember, we talked about in the hip thrust, you guys keeping your ribs down and your torso as short as possible. The same exact thing applies here, okay? Keep your ribs nice and tucked. Activate your core, and all you're gonna do is use the hips and tuck the pelvis up. Keep your chin tucked in and your ribs low, your ribs down, and untuck, okay? So here's your glute bridge right here. All right, let's go. Okay, we are almost at the bottom of our list. Our glutes are pumped up and we're excited. At least I am. Okay, this next exercise, I think I made up. I've been doing it for a long time. I might have started somewhere with it and then came up with my own name and my own way to do it. Jesse's girls all over the world hate me for it. I call it a reverse lunge deadlift. And it is amazing for building the glutes and the hamstrings. So it's a hybrid, right? So you're gonna stand with your feet about hip width apart, okay? Get into a stance where you're about to do a Romanian deadlift, okay? So get those shoulder blades shoved into your back pockets, okay? Get the core and the glutes nice and tight, but instead of going into a deadlift, you are gonna step back into a reverse lunge. So you're gonna step back, okay? And there's a part 2 to this, and it's very closely related to that Bulgarian split squat, but I'll get to that in a second. And as you go down into the lunge, the deadlift part of this is you have this barbell, this weight, and you're keeping it very close to that front leg as you come out of the step back, okay? Out of the reverse lunge. So I'll show it to you again, okay? Shoulder blades locked, glutes and core activated, all right? Step back into your reverse lunge. Keep the lats nice and locked. Go into your reverse lunge, keeping the barbell very close to that front leg the entire time. Now, I brought up a Bulgarian split squat, so let me show you what I mean by that. If you just went straight down with your knee like this, you would be very, very quad dominant. if you kept your stance really narrow and pointed your knee straight down to the ground like this. You can totally do it. It's awesome, especially if you want to build your quads like all Jessie's girls want to. But we're going to focus on the glutes here. So you want to take that 30-degree angle, okay? And when you step back, imagine that PVC pipe from the top of your head all the way to the back of the knee. There should be that straight line from here to here, okay? So if you need to film yourself from the side, which I highly recommend, do it. You don't want to be leaning forward too much like this, and you don't want to come straight down with your knee, okay? Okay, so I'm going to show it to you all the way through. Watch that 30-degree angle, and we're going to go into the reverse lunge deadlift. Okay, all reps on one side before switching, and trust me, this is going to feel really heavy. No weight on that barbell until you're ready to move up. Let's go. Okay guys, we made it. This is number 8, the final exercise of the top 8 glute exercises. With this exercise, we're gonna work the glute medius. So making sure you work the glute maximus and the medius is gonna give you that beautiful, nice round shape to your glutes. So for the side lying hip abduction, you wanna find a bench or a couch. You can even do this on the floor. The only difference on the floor is you won't get your foot as far down as this. You'll stop obviously at floor level, okay? So your bottom leg is going to be nice and bent like this, supporting you on the bench, and then your bottom forearm is going to be supporting your upper body on the bench or the surface, whatever surface you're on. And you're going to have a nice forward pointing, squared up hip and shoulder, okay? So I don't want you to open up like this. I don't want you to be rolled in like this. So stay nice and squared forward. And you're going to lift the leg up just like this. Your knee is nice and straight. And notice that my foot isn't random here. It is perfectly to the side, so the outer edge of my foot is what's reaching up to the ceiling, okay? And I keep my foot in that position the whole entire time. I dip down lower than the bench because I'm up on this bench. If I was on the floor, I would just stop at floor level, and you come up, okay? Biggest key here is that you keep your hips and your shoulders square, okay? You do all reps on one side, and then you switch. Well guys, my glutes are on fire. I hope yours are too. If you love this workout, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you always get notified about all of these badass Jessie's Girls workouts. Make sure you eat your post-workout meal and get lots of rest and recovery. See ya.